understand. I understand.
But get on the list because you're going to be around.
You're on.
Okay, welcome very, very much to Conversation. A pleasure. Welcome to the program. Lenni Brenner, a friend of mine in very dear terms and also of the broader, particularly intellectually oriented world. He is a public intellectual, but he's also introduced here as the editor of writings having to do with Zionism and Israel and so forth. And he's a most interesting person. He's got an interesting take on things. And Lenni, it's so good to see you on this November 24, 2010.
Okay. Now, today is a strange day.
Okay.
All right. Most people are not aware of the fact that one of the most important people in the world is right here on November 24th in New York City, and I am referring to King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia.
Wow, yeah, okay.
Okay, he's in New York for an operation. He's medical problems, okay? He's 86 years old, and I feel his pain.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
But what's important about him is that right now, President Obama has made an offer to sell between $60 and $90 billion worth of weapons to Saudi Arabia over the next 5 to 10 years.
Is it firm?
Well, at this point, what the law is that Congress has the right to object to it until the end of November. If they don't object to it, off it goes. In other words, it signs up and starts.
It's the thing that initiates with the executive.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
In other words,
would be an interesting thing.
All right. Now, I'm learning things I didn't know that's how this kind of thing is done. And as of now, the only opposition, now understand this deal, $60 to $90 billion, is the largest weapons deal in American history, if not world history, but definitely American history.
Wow.
Okay? Now, it's not the first time that the United States has sold weapons to Saudi Arabia. On the contrary, I found a number like $100 billion worth have been sold over the years, et cetera, et cetera. But the key is that Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy, absolutely infamous for its male chauvinism.
Wahhabi.
Okay? Women are not allowed to drive a car in Saudi Arabia. They just had an incident where a woman did to rescue some kids from a fire, and she became a heroine in the country, Now, I emphasize it's an absolute monarchy, okay? All right? There's no religious freedom whatsoever in the country.
For those other than Wahhabis.
Oh, I mean, let me put it this way. You've got now hundreds of thousands of foreign workers working in Saudi Arabia. A lot of them are Filipino Catholics. No churches are allowed, okay? A minority, I'm not sure what number, maybe 10% of the population are Shia Islam.
Pakistan?
No, Shia.
No,
in other words,
Pakistan or
no, native to the area.
Okay,
Yeah. No right to public appearances and stuff like that.
That
now,
recognizes the Shia branch of Islam.
The
Sunni down the
line.
Okay.
Now, one thing that's very important, in other words, it's infamous as an absolute monarchy. It's infamous for its opposition to freedom of religion and its male chauvinism. And yet the United States sees it as an ally, okay? Now, the best articles that I've read on the subject are from the Wall Street Journal, okay? Because they're impressed with it. Their writer who keeps up on the matter. Number one, it's the biggest arms deal in American history.
Yeah, that's no matter.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
It's sold as it's part of an alliance. Are you ready for this?
I want to hear.
The United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia against Shia Iran.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that I can understand.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And some weapons that Israel gets, Saudi Arabia can't get from the United States. All right, that in other words, the Israelis are concerned, hey, who's going to be the next king, or will the regime in Saudi Arabia be overthrown? We don't want to give them super-duper weapons that they can, America to give them super-duper weapons that they can use against us. But other than that, they're getting like a zillion helicopters. They're talking now about boats to patrol the Persian Gulf, et cetera, et cetera. All this is Obama, time for change. Obama arming the most absolute monarchy in the world, all right? Now, the reason for it is not only the alliance against the Iranians, but Saudi Arabia is the largest producer of crude oil in the world, okay? About a fifth of the known oil reserves in the world are in Saudi Arabia, and it is the dominant figure at all times in OPEC, which is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, okay? Now, to give you a sort of a background, this is enough to make me say that Obama is a war criminal for arming a regime as backward as and reactionary and anti-democratic as that. Like a big piece of that money goes to the Saudi National Guard, and the National Guard are really what amounts to a high-class palace guard.
Yeah,
and
Praetorian Guard.
Yeah, and what they are they're there to protect the dynasty, the Saudi dynasty, against its own army.
That's very interesting.
Okay.
Praetorian Guard.
Okay. Yeah. You see that? You know. I mean, you got it right there. See what it is. In that kind of Oriental despotism, which is a term that came out in the 19th century for that kind of absolute monarchy and all that.
Right.
Okay. Marx uses it, but it's not original with Marx.
No,
I mean, it's a term.
I know.
Okay.
Whitfogel.
Yeah, everybody uses it. All right. In that kind of regime, the one element that the government has the weakest control over is the military, because the military is always on the lookout for the most modern weapons. They're high tech. They're very modern. They're very scientific. So they're the ones most likely to push aside the traditional regime. That's what happened with Saddam Hussein in Iraq, Assad, old man Assad in Syria. In other words, get rid of these leftover monarchs.
Infantrymen,
Yeah, all right. You see, so what you do if you're the king is you arm your palace guards against the army. All right. In other words, you give them privileges and you et cetera, et cetera. Now, how long it'll work, we don't know. Now, there's one very key thing about Saudi Arabia and the United States that I find extraordinary. We just went through, the United States of America, a huge fight over a mosque near the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
Okay? It's obvious by the polls that most Americans don't like Muslims, don't like Islam.
It's the enemy du jour. Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Okay. So it isn't the American people, left or right, who are in favor of arming Saudi Arabia to the teeth. Okay? What this is the politicians and Wall Street.
Okay.
Okay? I mean, this is, I hate to use some same old words, but this is capitalist imperialism. Don't tell anybody out there, but this is a capitalist imperialist country, and the proof of it is the arming of Saudi Arabia. Everybody knows it's for oil. Everybody knows it's against Iran. Everybody knows it's male chauvinism.
Realpolitik.
It is. Let me put it this way. I would take it. It is realpolitik, and
I mean, that can be an honorable word, but it also
Right,
can be
right.
realpolitik.
Okay,
like
but
Haushofer in
I'll
Germany,
give
yeah.
it a.
Yeah.
I'll change it from realpolitik. I accept
Yeah.
what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I'll take it from there to C. Wright Mills's term, crackpot realism.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to hear that.
okay.
That has slipped my memory bank. And
Okay.
I'm glad to have
All
it
right.
back. Yeah.
Good. Keep it now.
Yeah.
All right. Shine it
Along
up.
with the power elite.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is involved here is that Obama voluntarily, you know, there's an old saying, fools rush in where angels fear to tread, all right? Obama made a decision a long time ago. He was going to become a Democrat and a politician, and he lucked out and he wound up president of the United States. Unfortunately, after Bush blew the economy apart, okay, all right, and now here he is looking for any kind of job thing for people to work at. This is Obama, and the way Obama is selling the Saudi arms deal to Congress, because remember, if Congress can object,
to know what the thinking
all right,
is,
hey guy, if you're a congressman and you got a Boeing plant in your district, you're for this.
Of course. Yeah,
okay?
well, that we can understand.
All right, well, understand it,
Yeah.
but what I'm simply saying is that we're in the biggest economic crisis since the Great Depression.
It might get worse.
Oh, I mean, but I'm saying we're already in the biggest, okay?
I think it's bigger than that. But
well, I mean, right.
Issue,
But what I'm saying is that what we're seeing here in classic form is Obama's solution to the economic crisis is building what President Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex.
I reminded you on the telephone that was originally the military-industrial scientific
Okay, right.
complex.
Okay, good.
Or you could say academic.
Okay.
Although academia is sort of a thing for certain, in terms of the thinking of people in academia is a little different, but yeah.
Well,
so what it's getting to is we're getting to some questions about what the heck is going on.
All
in
right,
the world.
now, if you put Saudi Arabia in the deal in context, what most Americans don't know is that since 2006, the United States has given the army in Lebanon's army, $670 million.
Good grief, that's another big thing.
All right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, the United States arms Israel at the rate of about $3 billion a year. Egypt at about $1.5 billion a year.
In terms of aid, that's the largest by far.
Yes.
Egypt second. Yeah.
Yes.
That's to buy that area.
The United States has the Fifth Fleet is stationed in Bahrain. Okay. The United States is getting deeper into Yemen, okay, because there's a big Al-Qaeda outfit there, etc. And all of this is fighting goes to Iran and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Okay, let me put it this way. Every bullet given to any one of those governments I just mentioned, Egypt, Israel, Lebanon, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the government of Afghanistan, the government of Iraq, etc., every bullet given is a war crime.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
All right? Obama is the first black president, but he's the last of a long line of war criminal presidents. Okay? And what makes this important is he just lost an election. Okay? Everybody knows it. It looks like he'll lean to the right towards the Republicans, in a get along, go along kind of thing, or he'll try to, All right? They're
going to keep saying no.
Well, on some things they'll say yes. For example,
well, one of the things, is it possible for us to have, that's really interesting. We're in that state and everything. I'm wondering if there's anything, any silver lining in terms of the human condition now. And it would seem to me one of the things we have to start thinking along is the means by which, as Mr. Shakespeare said, the William.
The Lenni Brenner,
the Lenni Brenner of
first
his time.
Elizabethan
Yes,
era.
right, exactly. I'm glad.
You see, I'm the Bill Shakespeare of the second Elizabethan era, so you got to get that right.
But it seems to me the only way, they're so ensconced. Now Ferguson has a great book out now about 500 years of European imperialism and so forth, China rising, all of that is going through that. But the only thing that can be seen is they're going to have to, in some way, by people who are concerned like you and I, or let's say, for the want of a better term, progressives, who seem to be sort of not very well, they're going to have to, the system is going to have to be hoisted on its own petard somehow. Something's going to have to deal with the institution of private property, the broad macro structure by which the planet operates, the understanding of the macro view of what the world is, what is the basis of the strategy. There's going to have to be a major qualitative transformation at this time, and there's you've got a number of indictments here in a traditional historical pattern. James Joyce said history is a nightmare, it's from awakening. How in the hell, or how does progressive, what is the progressive response to a world where all the power, and then in terms of the national economy, the banks have trillions of dollars stored up now. They've been bailed out endlessly, and they're foreclosing on all the people, and it's unworkable at a level of economic theory.
All right.
And there's larger issues in broad beyond the $80 billion, although that's huge.
All right.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
No, let me put it this way. It took you a long time to sum up because it's such a complex question.
Right, interrelated systems.
Yeah. Okay. What I find interesting is I would say all of the serious commentators, right to left, tend to agree to that, what you just said, putting different emphasis on certain points, but they tend to agree with the overview. What we're dealing with now is a world economic crisis where it hops from Ireland to Turkey, back to China, to Greece, on and on and on and on. Okay. And clearly, you're asking, everybody senses that you're asking for trouble if you're arming all kinds of leftovers from the historical past that who should have been removed from the historical scene a long time ago.
In a very real sense, Lenny, the whole system in place is leftover, has to be subsumed, because if we're going to make it, and not because behind all those weapon systems, the thing that looms, not only with F-16s and that sort of, behind it is the weapon systems that are encased and still remain as they have been for about 40 years, species lethal. The strategic weapons are still there. And the weapons are now able
let me take it a step further.
You understand?
Yeah.
They can eliminate the species.
Okay.
That doesn't seem to be resonating in people's minds.
Let me take it this way. If you look at the history of democracy from the American Revolution, then you get, that's in the 18th century, then 1848, you get the Communist Manifesto, etc. From then to now, you've had an attempts to blow away the old order based on inheritance, like I say, King of Saudi Arabia, all that kind of stuff, all over the world.
Fiefdoms.
All right. Yeah. And what you've had again and again and again is failure of these movements. In other words, the United States was the inspiration for the French Revolution.
Yeah.
Today, the United States is Blagojevich land. You understand? In other words,
Chicago.
I mean, let me put it this way: Mayor Bloomberg said that the public. I agree with him for a change. He says, as far as the public is concerned, they see politics as a pork barrel.
Right.
In other words, that's what it's been reduced down to by the politicians.
Right.
Okay, and when you're dealing,
the institutions are out of sync with what the future requires in a maximal way.
In a maximal way. Let me give you an example.
Interrelated.
The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, etc., report daily on the corruption of America's pro-American government in Kabul, in Afghanistan.
It's horrible.
It's bribe taking.
Yeah, absolutely. And Iraq, Mr. Stiglitz said $3 trillion. We were just bribing.
Okay, all right.
To get that.
All right. Now, in other words, anybody looking at Afghanistan, for example, sees a corrupt government fighting fanatics. Right. The fanatics have the credibility of, at least they believe in what they're doing. Okay?
Right.
All right?
Yeah.
Whereas
and
nobody...
is what they have to put up
all right,
with.
whereas nobody...
Tours of duty,
now, all right. Now, what I'm getting at is that it's the combination of the economic crisis and these impossible situations like Afghanistan, where they're now talking, oh, yes, we're going to start reducing troops in...
13 now.
In 2011. That's what I said when I was running. But of course, I really meant, or what we mean now is 2014. And of course, understand, the United States is no longer in combat in Iraq. But a guy just got killed a couple of days ago, you know. All right?
It seems to me, Lenny, we should recount that song from the 20s. It seems to me... I've heard that song before, and so forth. Right?
All right. So the result is that this combination of economic crisis and war crisis. I mean, the United States has been in Afghanistan since 2001. No, 10 years
10
now.
years now. Yeah.
All right. And 8 years in Afghanistan. That's longer than World War II.
8 years. Yeah, right.
All right.
I'm hip.
And both of them are now longer than World War II.
And we got all those troops in Korea. We got all those troops in Germany. What the hell is it about anyway?
But now, what I find strange is that you and I are talking about this, and we're treating it matter of fact. The Wall Street Journal treats it as matter of fact. But I'm not seeing any comments on the part of the anti-war movement about this arms
pact. Well, I think the progressive movement is blinkered. The whole progressive movement, people that are concerned, intellectuals, the whole of academia practically, everybody is blinkered and has no kind of real actual means by which they are going to, again, to come back to Mr. Shakespeare, that whole system, which is that now they got this election, Sarah Palin and all this stuff, the whole thing, they have to have something that is going to hoist it on its own petard. We have to look for something like that that's going to say, okay, you believe it. Look, one of them is private property, and it's all owned, the assets are all owned by a tiny plutocratic class everywhere in the world, and they were still talking, we'll get somebody a job. They're not going to, they're going to have a jobless recovery.
All right, now let me explain something. To me, the big change now, because everybody is focusing on it, is Obama's defeat. Okay.
In 12.
Now this one.
That's the Republican Party.
Hold on a minute, because now everybody has to start thinking about 2012. What's going to happen in 2012? Now,
say no.
Now hold on a minute. Yeah. You had a huge number of people who voted for Obama because they figured he was the lesser of two evils.
You mean this time or
in 2008?
Oh, well, that was a real...
Well, wait a minute. They voted for him because he wasn't Bush, okay?
Also, he was very articulate.
No, wait a minute. Okay, today, you can't say that lesser evil. What lesser evil has boiled down to...
You wrote the book with that title.
What lesser evil has boiled down to in practice is if the Republicans win in 2012, they will kill 1 million people. If the Democrats win in 2012, they will only kill 999,999
and a half.
And
no, not that. Sorry, I didn't mean to bend the facts.
Because George Soros and Katrina Vanden Heuvel, they will vote for whoever the Democrats put up on the grounds that they are. You know the old saying, who saves one life saves the world. So they're not voting for 999,999 dead. They're voting to save one life. They are holy men, okay? Well, except for one thing. They're voting for the guy, the Democrat, whoever it is, who will kill 999,999, and they know it. And they are not going to be telling people about it.
Okay, let me ask you. Let me veer off a little bit. Now we're keying off Mr. Is he the father of the Abdullah plan that have been presented to Israel and signed by so many Arab and Islamic countries and so forth on the Middle East thing, Israel? I'm not sure, but anyway, the thing is that you were keying off that. But this idea of the economic thing, the economic recovery such as it is and everything, I think that's a fundamental thing, because I really think there are structural things that aren't on the normal playbook of our understanding things political or even a little bit more advanced than that, or economic and everything. And I think they've got the thing where we've got such a capability. One of the, I mentioned it before, the weapons are there. They just signed a little reduction with with Russia, and so but the weapons are still there, and they still are species lethal.
Yeah.
Which is brand new. They haven't been like that. We haven't had that for 200,000 years until about 1970. That was a year of qualitative change.
Let me put it this way. At this particular point, when Obama talks about cutting arms, us and the Russians getting together to cut arms, what he doesn't talk about at the same time is that Israel has 200 atom bombs. That's the estimate that most people go by. Yeah. It doesn't even... We have atomic weapons? Us? Gracious, no!
Israel or America?
Israel. In other words, officially, the Israeli government says, we don't have any weapons. Yeah. Unofficially, if you're 6 years old and they allow you to cross streets alone, you know that Israel has the atom bomb. I mean, it's cut and dry. Yeah. Okay.
And no inspectors.
There's no inspectors, and at the same time, the United States is demanding the right to inspect North Korea and
but
wait. No.
Go ahead.
They're demanding the right to inspect Iran and North Korea, but they're not demanding the right to inspect India, Pakistan, or Israel.
They get blowback from all those.
Now you understand. In other words, what you're talking about now, you know the term loose cannons.
Yeah, right.
What they're worried about is that obviously Pakistan is a failed state, okay? What happens to its atom bombs if it fails? Who gets them?
A lot of them knocking around from Russia's implosion.
All right, but I'm saying, in other words, let me put it this way. Just before Marx died, some journalist interviewed him. By that time he had become a celebrity, an old radical, all that. So let's ask him some questions, etc. And he said, and they asked him, and he said, "Look, the future goes either to socialism or barbarism."
Well, that would be a scientific socialistic take.
All right. Now, paradoxically, what we've had is a whole lot of failed socialism. Yeah. In other words, the labor movement in the United States, whatever it started out, the AFL and CIO.
And we're now experiencing failed capitalism.
All right. In other words, what has happened is that.
Or
no, please don't interrupt me for a minute, because this is one of these pretzel-shaped explanations.
A many-sided pretzel.
The left has failed again and again and again, but the right, to beat it, used forces like Islamic fundamentalism in Afghanistan. In other words, we started the show talking about Saudi Arabia. Yeah. In 1979, it was Democrat Jimmy Carter, a Baptist, a Christian, who started arming the Islamic fundamentalists in Afghanistan in conjunction with Saudi Arabia. That's where bin Laden comes into the show. Now, to define, I want to get to Saudi Arabia for a minute, because this goes into this whole economic crisis.
Back to where we began.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. When the United States backed Islamic fundamentalism against the Soviets in Afghanistan, what they were doing was using... All right, this scheme started way back with Harry Truman. After World War II, he realized, look, we can use religion against godless, atheistic communism, all right? Yeah. So they backed the Catholics in Poland and the Muslims in Afghanistan, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So the result is that Southern Baptist Jimmy Carter starts arming Islamic fundamentalists, a whole pack of whom came from Saudi Arabia, okay, and they were allied, okay, and the problem with that is when you arm fanatics, right-wing fanatics, against the left, you think they are working for you. But the fanatics, especially if they win, they think they were using you. In other words, the United States thought they were using the fundamentalists, Islamic fundamentalists, against the Reds. But the Islamic fundamentalists thought, gee, thank you, very good, Mr. Jimmy Carter, Mr. Ronald Reagan. Hey, great guys. Now that we used you, now we're looking, and let's see who else we can beat. We just beat the godless atheistic communists and helped destroy the Soviet Union.
That had George Kennan, containment, all of that since the Second War. That was all there and everything, and that was still informing it all. And
no, but this is beyond containment. In other words, what Carter and Reagan did was use the fundamentalists to push, not to contain the Soviet Union, but to push it out of biz.
They push it out. Well, that's been going on since way back when.
All right, okay.
I had a relative.
So the result is that now look at it from the point of view of the American people. I remember when the war against the Soviets in Afghanistan started in '79, and because remember that in 1980 the United States boycotted the 1980 Olympics in Moscow because of the Soviet involvement in Afghanistan, okay? Now, if you take the average American who was an adult, 18 or over, in 1980, what they know about Afghanistan is maybe they remember the Moscow Olympic boycott, but they didn't know about any of that background stuff. Okay, we do. Okay?
We being who?
Me and you and
people who think.
The people who think. We do. Yeah. Okay. Now, that was a crime. At the same time, the same Jimmy Carter, Democrat, I emphasize now, he was the one that backed the Shah of Iran to the very end. Okay? And I want to point something out to you now.
But I wonder, could I get off on something else? Because that's very interesting. And what you're doing is you're going down the details of something, and I was trying to get to a pattern.
Okay.
Okay, and the pattern is that the weapon systems that have evolved through the extension of human consciousness over time reached a certain existential new reality along about 1970, when they've got to the point where the weapon systems were no longer one where you could have one tribe win over another and fight wars and steal the grain and so forth, realpolitik and so on. But they became species lethal by the modeling. They're species, that's the pattern. They are species lethal. And they're in the hands and they could be set off. And that means that there would be no survivor. Monsieur Kako makes that very clear. He understands it well. He was with Teller. That's an existential new reality after about the year 1970.
All right. Now,
that's the point I wanted to make. The other point is, on the other side, we also have a tremendous capability just in terms of seeing evolution in large terms. We're evolving a new pattern. We're coming out of, and it can be stood in strictly materialistic terms and so forth. We have a technologically augmented capability of producing for everybody in the world such a thing, and that the trend could be seen. Again, a trend that could be seen. There were increasing numbers of people who could be seen to be haves in terms of the technologically augmented capability of our productive system through time, and we crossed the 50% mark where there were, by modeling, more haves than have-nots in the world at the level of capability for the first time coming out of history.
I'll take it a step further.
We are transcending scarcity.
For a change, I agree with you.
No, wait a minute. We're 1970 again, okay? Existentially, there's a new thing
All
going
right.
on. Now, let me finish. Now we got down to where we've got this thing, and the thing on the economic front is that we've had this extension. All of the capital assets are owned by a tiny plutocratic class in the whole world.
All right, hold up.
Okay,
all right.
And the left is still on the thing of the labor theory of value, how important the labor contribution is.
I agree with you.
And I was looking for something.
All right.
And let me finish. Okay, we went a long time. I can't understand what. What does it say? Just say. I can't. Oh. Okay. Well, it's falling down. Okay. Okay, we'll have to do that. Okay. The point is that we've gotten to the point where we've had the left. How are we go? What is it? What are the institutions that we're questioning? We're questioning. One of them is, and the one that they're celebrating, the right-wing forces that seem to be an ascendant and everything like that, and seem to be able to make something. They're the institution of private property.
Okay, stop.
No, stop.
You gotta.
I'll stop. I'll make the point in that. The idea of private property as a collective, that kind of thing, they're still arguing that we cannot have any private property ownership, that thing. That principle, listen, that principle should not be taken. It should be who owns the private property, and they're going to hoist the idea of that on the, they're going to hoist them on the petard of saying it's great, but then they're going to have to distribute ownership as a way of distributing demand and capability buying power, because the people are not needed for the productive process.
All right. No. Okay, look.
And we're going to have a jobless recovery.
Hold on a second. Look.
It's going to undercut everything.
Look.
Unless we get a new economic policy.
Please, let me get in. Okay, now.
And we need to have they need to have a system where the left can hoist them on their own petard. That's what we have to look for.
I got to deal with your questions. You went on.
You went on 10 minutes about Afghanistan.
Enough. Okay, look.
Address it.
The key, I agree with you on one crucial thing. The key thing today is technology and education. That is a distinctive thing. That if one of the reasons for the failures of all the lefts all over the world in the past is the ignorance of the masses, etc. Whereas today, I can get on the internet and send out an article on Saudi Arabia, and it goes all over the world and gets put on the websites and so on and so forth.
Counterblast, you
Please.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
All right? So what we have now is an enormous economic crisis, all of the things that you were saying, et cetera, et cetera.
Address them.
Please.
Okay.
But the key, let me put it this way. As I say, Marx put it nicely, socialism or barbarism.
Well, that's the
Please. He put it very nicely. The possibility of, as you say, the species destroying itself, i.e. barbarism, okay, is visibly there. But the one thing that is distinctively new is the internet and the ability to communicate simultaneously all over the world. Now, all of what we've been saying here now, all of it, okay, my thinking is this, and bear me out while I lay out, because it's two parts. Given the internet, as I was talking, as I was preparing for this chat with regards to Saudi Arabia, I realized one very crucial thing. You got a lot of people who are focused on Iraq, a lot of people who are focused on Afghanistan. Now you got more and more people focused on Palestine than ever before, et cetera, all good. But you don't have a focus on the Middle East as a whole. Now, the State Department does. When they think of the Middle East, they think of what they call the Arab Street. Which runs from Morocco all the way to
the people,
Iraq,
rather than the leaders.
But the point is that they think of the region as a whole, and they know, the State Department, that it has a policy towards Morocco in the Sahara, it has a policy towards Egypt, it has a policy, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, national.
Okay, but the left only focuses on one or two or three things in this whole big pot, okay?
The left is blinkered.
I'm saying the left is blinkered.
It's the problem of the world is with the left.
Now, hold on. Now,
the problem is with the left.
What I am saying is that one of the things that we have to do, us serious thinkers, is put together a website on American involvement in the Middle East from World War II to now, because that's a good time frame. Every country, country by country, so that there's no gaps, so that for example, we know that Saudi Arabia and the United States back the Phalange Party, Phalange, in Lebanon against Hezbollah, okay? All of this stuff, American involvement, country by country, how much military equipment, how much this, how much that, ought to be on a website with a historic timetable, country by country, with connections so they can go from country to country. Let me put it this way.
What would that do? How would that get to an ideology?
What it would do.
Or to an understanding of what's going on. Or an action plan.
Exactly in the same way as a professor would do it. In other words, you lay it out country by country, and you go from country to country, day to day, year to year, and you check it out. And the imperialist nature of it comes off the electric
So it's
page.
there. We know it's imperialism.
No. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
you know it, and I know it,
Uh-huh.
but the average American doesn't know it.
Okay.
All right.
Go
But
on. Keep going. Yeah. Get to something.
I'm trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
If we set up a website where country by country we put up documents, this is what Harry Truman...
That's what you've done. Yeah.
Okay, this is what Harry Truman said in 1945. How many Americans know that Eisenhower had one of the top leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood as a guest in the White House in 1953?
These are details of history.
All right,
of which
but what I'm
many.
saying is that you put all the details on a website, country by country, chronologically. It's called a historic timetable.
Okay, let me talk for a minute. You've been talking. What
Okay.
I'm looking at is a painting by Degas of points and everything. You're talking about let's really look into each of those points, get them solid. I'm wanting to see the pattern. What is the pattern? Not the details. Avoid details. You can do it if you want. There's scholarship that does. We don't need details. We need systems thinking of patterns between parts of an overall paradigm. All of our institutions are... Wait a minute.
I correct
all of
you.
our institutions...
No, I understand what you're saying.
Lenny, if we make it, which is really a toss-up, we're heading toward a fascist system. We're heading toward a system that they do not have an economic theory that's going to be able to clear the market. They don't have they're either going to annihilate or liberate the human society within an ecological context. That's a big pattern, and they don't have a vision.
Okay, I correct you on one very important thing.
Unless we're going to muddle through.
I correct you on one very important
correct
thing.
Away.
We need more details, not less.
Okay, do details.
In other
if you
words,
want to have details, then you can do that.
In other words, what I'm saying is that I, as a scholar, I want to know how did America get involved in Saudi Arabia?
Okay.
When did it happen?
Okay, good.
Who said
fine.
what
I'll
to
tell
who?
you one
Who
thing
to
for
whom?
sure.
Then, now shut up for a minute.
All right.
Then, on the basis of a factual knowledge of undisputed details and documents, etc., then we draw up the theoretical conclusion.
Okay, it's like a unified field theory in quantum mechanics.
All
You're
right.
going to break everything down into quarks. You're going to get all the details. And I'll tell you, there's an old saying for the people who are running things, maybe they have some idea. My worry is they don't have an idea of what's going on, the leadership of the world. But what they're going to do, divide and conquer. That's what they've done with academia. You get academia. Now, academia, you go and deal with the pluperfect tense in French literature in the 13th century in the bottom part of France. You do it in the north. They get them so divided and conquered, intellectually specialized. All they know is their specialization, tunnel vision. There's no systems.
That's why
where's
I
the
say,
systems thinker?
That's why I say
Why
if
the
you set
details?
it up detail by detail, country by country, and connect the webbing by webbing it.
Okay.
In other words,
that's coming.
All
That's
right.
part of the technique.
No. In other words, what we're talking about is what the left ain't doing.
And what the problem with the left is they're hung up on the labor theory of value.
All right,
now,
look.
wait a minute. Stop.
Yeah.
Labor. Labor is input to production. Labor's contribution is moving to the vanishing point. They were very important. The guys on the assembly line, all of that. You could have a labor-based thing, how important the worker is. the assets are increasingly responsible for production, and we allow them to be owned by a tiny group.
Okay.
Okay, now wait a minute. Private property. That's something you can hoist them on their own petard. Private property is a wonderful thing. All the arguments for how great the privatization should be done in a way, governmentally done, in a way that the ownership of the private property piece of technology goes to everybody as a way, because they do not have a way, Keynes said it, they don't have a way of distributing money or demand to the people to clear the market. They're going to need that, and you can hoist the system, or the responsible parts, as they call it, on their own petard. That's what we have to find in the left.
When you were talking about...
And they don't do it.
All right, now...
They call privatization, it means everything goes to the rich.
Hold on a second.
They're stupid.
Please, look, the key to all the technology is education.
No, well...
Please.
Okay, go
The
ahead.
key, in other words, I have a brother, for example, who has a factory now, and he has difficulty in hiring people who know how to play all the dials on the computers as the stuff is going on. In other words, in the old days, you had three categories of economic producers. You had unskilled blue-collar, skilled blue-collar, which meant a guy with a monkey wrench or a machinist, okay?
And tool and die,
way over here, a little group, a minuscule group of professionals, doctors, et cetera, biologists,
professors.
Yeah, okay. Today, you have a situation where, all right, let me put it this way. The first census after I was born, I was born in 37, the 1940 census, only 4% of Americans had a bachelor's degree. Today, 38% of whites, 17% of blacks have a bachelor's degree.
Okay,
In
keep
other words,
talking, and then I want to address it.
This is
Get your point, and then I'll address it.
Precisely
Get your point.
A personality aspect of the shift from unskilled labor to high tech.
Did you made the point?
No, wait.
Get the point made, and don't go on for half an hour.
The point is that the United Auto Workers today, I was looking at their magazine, and they're talking about how they're recruiting graduate student workers on college campuses.
Okay.
This is the auto workers.
The point, Lenny. What's the point?
In other words,
addressing
the
point.
name of the game is to play the high-tech game of setting up scholarly material on every one of these issues with regards to the Middle East.
Have you made the point?
And then
to get your detailed thing.
It's education from the facts.
Is that it then? Okay, education is a way in which they divide people up, and it's like a minimal security correctional facility. Your main thing is to learn, to focus, and be told what you're done. That's from the bottom up. That's what education is about. You will do what you're told within a group thing. It gets you specialized out. They've gone linear regression. They're just going to specialize out to where you're going to do your dissertation on one thing, and they call that education. I don't wonder that people are rebelling. Who the hell would want to go and sit and listen to some guy?
But there's something going the opposite direction.
Now, wait a minute. Education is not the answer.
No. Education is an absolute part of the answer, but it's not the end of the answer. But what I've learned is this. About a year ago, the Wall Street Journal had a full page, a solid page, on the history of Israel's backing secret subsidization of Hamas against the PLO back about 10 years ago. Now, what struck me about it wasn't that they said anything that I didn't know, but the point is one of their journalists realized that this had gone on and went and researched it and reported it. Now, based on that and other things like that, what I'm saying is this. If we set up the kind of scholarly website that I'm talking about, the media and the general public will go to it.
We were talking about education.
Wait a minute. Well, hold on a minute.
You were talking about education. Now you're back to your website.
Wait a minute.
That's part of education. That can be autodidactically available to anybody without going to a university campus.
That's my point.
The only reason they say it's good to get a campus, you know why it's good to get a degree? Because then you make more money. They don't have a way of distributing money to people.
But I'm saying that from the political point of view, the key thing is that the website has become the university of the world.
That's right. So you don't need the university.
So, but we need the website.
No, you need the web. You don't. Well, all right. But that's it.
Right.
No, I got another example for you.
Wait a minute.
I got another example for you. You talk too much, if I may say. But
you are accusing me of talking too much.
No, I got another example. They used to be everybody worked on a farm. The most thing was the individual farmer in 1900 and so forth. Then along comes a machine called a combine, and the combine moves across hundreds of square miles of Kansas. They move across, producing 10 billion barrels of grain, and they don't even have a driver now. They have a computer-driven thing that goes and does it. Not a single human. How far can you get down that line? Airplanes. The airlines would be safer if there was no pilot in the pilot's seat. Triple redundancy would be safer. People are becoming obsolete in terms of the material production of goods and services. It's all being done by machines, and that's the trend in this country and the world. And the problem is, how are you going to distribute buying power? Stop and listen. Listen. How are you going to? They're all saying jobs, jobs, jobs. Why jobs? Why does somebody have to be a serf on a feudal estate where the guys own all the assets? Why do they let them get away with that? That they're going to own. It's okay for them to own all the assets.
You want the answer to that?
No, let me finish. The assets. Why does the left put up with that and call any ownership of that combine that would give income stream to the schlep or to the individual democratized? They can't face it.
Now hold on.
One last sentence. That's the main idea by which the system on the right, protectors of private property and all the bullshit that goes with it and everything, could be hoisted on their own petard. Okay. That's what we have to do.
All right.
And they're not doing it.
Now, hold on.
They're in a swoon to the theory of labor theory of value.
I said a while back that one of the key things that frames the future is Obama's defeat in 2010, right now. Okay. We have to start thinking about 2012. When I say we, all these left groups, all the people like you, me, the good guys, okay?
Well, yeah.
Shut up.
Okay.
All the good guys have to think about a strategy of what we do between now and 2012 and beyond. Mm-hmm. And I am saying that the key is that you cannot vote for Obama or the Democrats.
Who are you going to vote for?
Shut up.
Go ahead.
You cannot vote for them on the basis of lesser evilism because they are indeed sinisterly evil. That I would say right now, I'm here in New York, okay, the Green Party here in New York got on the ballot for 2012 and 2014.
Yeah.
Howie Hawkins
Howie's a good guy.
Got 58,000 votes, and that qualified him. I'm saying this, that the left ought to get into the Green Party nationwide now, because it's on the ballot in a lot of states already, okay, and fight it out inside the Green Party and build it as the alternative to Obama or the Democrats in 2012.
That's interesting.
Because, see, here's the point. Let me explain something.
They'd have to have something new.
Please. I come out of the street demonstrations of the 60s.
I know, you've been there all over.
What happened with most of the people who organized the street demonstrations in the 60s is that they haven't picked up on this technological change that you've been talking about and I've been talking about. They haven't picked up on any of the modern post-60s things. They want to recreate the 60s and the labor theory of value,
That's exactly their grounding idea.
All right.
That's the people, the workers.
I'm saying that, see, because I'm a scholar and I'm constantly reading new things,
I know.
I discovered, as I say, the UAW, one of the places where they're actually growing is on the college campus. In other words,
I don't know what that means.
In other words, let me put it this way. The big thing about the 60s, the decisive thing about the 60s, was that the major source of opposition to the system was the college campus.
It still is.
Now, wait a minute.
Academia is
all
left.
The left never accepted that. The left, it had to be the working class, the blue-collar guys. So Shut up.
It's the okay.
All right.
Okay. It's the intellectuals that are concerned for the least among us. I mean,
all right.
Capitalists don't give a
No.
shit.
But they thought that it was going to be the least among them that would be leading the struggle on behalf of the least among them.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened, because what actually happened.
Reality intervened.
All right. Reality intervened in a very peculiar way. If you look at the left in the 30s, you had a lot of leftists in the factories.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Of different,
Wobblies.
Oh, every kind. Communists, Stalinists, Trotskyists, every kind.
And that was being fought
But
out
what
until the
happened
implosion of the Soviet Union.
after the end of World War II is the GI Bill,
Mm-hmm.
and the next thing that you know is that the guy who was the factory commie in the 30s went to school, went to college. He didn't go back into the factory after World War II. He went to college, or his son and daughter went to college.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if you look at who were the lefties in the 30s, where are their kids today?
Well, what do we mean by
Wait
that?
a minute.
Okay.
If you look at them, the guy who was the lefty in the auto factory, today his kid is studying to be a biologist at some state university, his grandchild. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the left never accepted that the shift, in other words, that the students aren't some sort of auxiliary to the working class. They're an integral, central component of the opposition to the system.
Okay. What I can't fathom it out. I don't quite understand.
In other words, that the technology.
I see the universities as just. See, you don't listen to what I said. You don't think we have to hoist the right wing, and that would include every political entity in the world. There's a small group of people who run it, have control over it. The people are like serfs on a feudal estate everywhere in the world, every country. Some are a little better off than others. There's some competition and everything like that. But we're coming to a point where there has to be a qualitative change in the way money gets to people.
All right, but I'm saying
is that true?
How
are we going to? What does it mean to be left?
But
what does that mean to be left?
But I'm saying to you that the quality, I agree with most of what you have to say. I mean, we're really arguing over fine details. What I'm saying to you, though, is that what I see as the distinctive thing is precisely, I disagree with you. See,
what?
On one key thing.
Good.
I lecture on college. I'm a guest lecturer for student clubs on college campuses all over the United States. And I see the university, in spite of itself, in spite of its capitalist management.
Yeah, it's all bought and paid for by the same people who own all the assets.
Wait a minute. The problem that
Lenny,
they have.
One problem in terms of the university, we run out of time, so we got to say goodbye to the
All
audience
right.
quick.
All right.
Lenny, thank you. So good.
All right.
Great talking to you. I think
great talking to me.
I just think the universities are just part of the whole system that's all owned and operated by these people who have to be challenged by hoisting them on their own petard. We have to come up with something.
The students that are going to hoist it.
Well, they're not going to do anything except try to get a job.
No,
so they can have food.
You're underestimating
Your pleasure.
the
Lenni
students.
Brenner, revolutionary
Bah, humbug,
thinker.
bah, humbug, bah.
Happy holiday. Thanksgiving coming up. Everybody, thanks for viewing. Lenni Brenner, scholar extraordinaire, and thank you very much for viewing, and thanks in the booth. And we look forward to a happy holiday season as best we can under these Scrooge-like conditions of the system that is going to bring the context where there's going to be a qualitative challenge to the whole system, not just one little detail of it, in my view. I think there's hope in that, and it's going to be hoisted on its own petard. That's the way to think. Okay, that's my thought. And Lenny, thanks a lot for coming out. I lost track of the time. And I think it was really good talking to you. Thanks a lot.